Okay, it's nearly the end of day one of BlizzCon, and I'm starting to feel like I have weathered my own personal cataclysm, but for now we're here to talk about World of Warcraft Cataclysm, and I am lucky enough to have J. Allen Brack, and you, sir, are the production director on World of Warcraft, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
How's BlizzCon going for you so far?
It's been a fantastic show. We did the announcement of the game this morning to many thousands of people, and the crowd reception was really positive, and that's a lot of energy that we get from it. So it was really exciting.
Very cool, very cool. So you guys have got the whole, like you're basically destroying the old world. It's all in Azeroth again. I'm just gonna ask you right off the top of your head, what are your say 3 favorite zones that have been made over, and what have you done to them?
So that's actually pretty easy. Number one on the list is Ashara. Ashara is currently one of what I think the team consensus and the community consensus is one of the worst zones in the game. It's got very little story. It's got a lot of different things. It's got a lot of problems from a level design standpoint. And so we're really taking advantage to just completely revamp that zone and turn it into something really special. Dark Shore is another zone that we spent a lot of time working on. A lot of people have done Dark Shore, and it has a lot of running back and forth between Aberdeen and the north and Aberdeen and the south, and so we're really excited about that zone going away. And then, on kind of new zones, Mount Highjall is a zone that is really exciting to us to do. It's been in the game for some time, but we've never actually allowed players to quest in it. So with Cataclysm, we're going to allow players to actually experience what's been happening since the World Tree was destroyed.
Very cool. So this is a land that people that have just the basic World of Warcraft package are questing in. There are already players there that aren't going to have this expansion. How do you handle? Gosh, I don't even know where to start with this question, because you're going to have players who have just that game.
Yep.
You're going to have players who have that and this expansion,
Yep. But
even they will have, they'll be starting new characters in these lands. Like, what version of the world do you present to people based on what they own and what level their character is?
We do have the intention for all players to get Cataclysm. So all players will get kind of the revamped world, and what the box will give you will be access to new features and the new level cap and new quests and new zones. But it is our intention for to really take a lot of the learning that we had from Burning Crusade as well as Lich King and kind of put that learning back into the old world. We're much smarter about making zones. We're much smarter about designing levels and doing quest content and getting that back into the old world. It's really part of the motivation for Cataclysm.
Okay, so if you're pushing this new world out to everybody that's playing, that means the old original World of Warcraft is just gone, kaput? Is that correct? No way to see that stuff again?
No way to see that. So.
Is anybody on your team shedding a tear silently for that? I mean, that's a lot of content to just abolish like that.
Well, I don't think we shouldn't have the impression that the entire world's going away. There are certain zones like Ashara and other zones that we haven't that we are actually doing a lot with, and those zones are going away. But other zones we're actually in really good shape, and there's not a whole lot that we're going to change about those. The zone that we kind of talk about in that regard a lot is Elwyn Forest. Elwyn Forest got a lot of iteration. It's a pretty good zone. We're going to do a couple things to it in terms of new quests, but it's not going to be changed dramatically. So the amount of change for each zone is going to vary, basically based on how good we think that zone is.
So what you're saying is that in perpetuity, Princess must die. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay. So.
And our good friend Hogger.
Of course. of course. Yes. So you guys have announced Cataclysm. Lich King is on the market, but the Lich King encounter is not yet in the game. Do you feel like having this expansion announced this early before that fight, before you've been able to fight Arthas? Do you feel like does that take any of the wind out of that the sails of that fight? I mean, do you think that turns that into kind of an anticlimax if you go kill the Lich King, but then you've got this big dragon to deal with? I mean, what's the progression going to be? Is that stuff going to be in before this expansion?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we're hard at work actually on the Arthas encounter right now, and what we're calling Patch 3.3, which will actually resolve the arc of Arthas. And we do expect for that to come out relatively soon and be something that players have a great time with and enjoy. We typically like to announce expansions at BlizzCons because it's a good way for players to really get excited about what the next thing is. And we did the same thing with Lich King, where we announced Lich King far before we had finished kind of the cycle of what Burning Crusade was and what it had been. There's always going to be bad guys in the Warcraft universe for players to fight. So I don't think anyone had the idea that once you defeated Arthas, that would be it.
Okay. Well, so speaking of announcing expansions at BlizzCon, I forget, one of the members of the panel this morning, they basically made a comment to the effect of, they were talking about Goblin Rogues, and they were like, oh, we expect, by the next BlizzCon, a bunch of players will be complaining about how much they hate these guys. So does that mean this expansion is out by the next BlizzCon, and Is that a year from now? Can you fill in or clarify those comments?
Sure. I think he's more talking about the community reaction to a lot of stuff that ends up happening. Not really. Where a lot of players have the philosophy that their class is the worst. Whatever class they happen to play is the worst class in the game. So we're not really have a timetable for Cataclysm. We want it to be a great experience whenever you buy the box. That's sort of the Blizzard philosophy. It served us very well. We're certainly not going to change that now.
So no illumination on when that might be?
No illumination, and no illumination on when the next BlizzCon might be.
All right, well, I had to try.
Nothing wrong.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to level with you. I played World of Warcraft. I played it for a combined 2 years. I played it to the exclusion not only of other games, but pretty much every other meaningful or healthy activity in my life. And then I kicked it, finally. What do you say to somebody like me who had to claw their way away from the game? How do you entice me to come back and kind of assure me that that's not going to happen again?
Well, I think the point of the game is first to make a very compelling experience for people. One of the things we did with Lich King is we had this heroic experience where players started out at level 55 and then had a very directed storyline experience for how they became a Death Knight, servant of Arthas, and how they broke free of his grasp. We're going to try to do the exact same thing with the Worgen and the Goblins. So they're going to have very compelling storylines, very directed content that really feel just is an epic start for those races. And I think that the quality of the content will probably speak for itself.
So they talked about in the panel that the kind of level range that corresponds to most of the zones, or at least some of the zones, is going to be changed. So you might have a zone that was like 20 to 30 before, which is going to be say 40 to 50 or something in the new expansion. Can you give any radical examples of that? I mean, is Westfall going to suddenly be like an end-game zone, or what are some ones that people will recognize, but they'll be surprised at kind of the level requirements there?
Probably the biggest one is Ashara. So Ashara is a very high-level zone. It's kind of a low 50s zone right now. In the future, it actually will become kind of what we think of as the next zone that the goblins explore after the Lost Isles, and so it's actually going to turn into like a 10 to 20 type zone.
So underwater mounts. You guys have announced a turtle, is that correct? Do you have any other examples you can give? How's that stuff going to work?
We actually haven't really started the asset list very much for what the underwater mounts would be and how that would work. We do have an underwater zone that we've got planned called the Sunken City of Vashir, and so we'll have ways for players to kind of exploit that zone and get around and it not be a fun experience.
Okay, so normally this is the part where I'd ask, when it's coming out, but you made it clear that's not going to happen, so
when it's ready.
I'm going to give you 20 seconds to wrap this thing up.
Wow. Let's see. Cataclysm is it's a really awesome opportunity. I think. I don't think there's been very many games that have gone back and kind of revamped their base game. So we're really excited to be able to do that. We're really excited to bring flying mounts into Azeroth, which is something that players have asked for a really long time. And then the guild features that we've got planned out are really exciting because there's a wide variety of different things and different powers and different talents that we're going to add with the guild leveling system. So it's really exciting. It's the largest expansion we've really ever done for World of Warcraft, so it's pretty awesome.
Very cool. Thanks for your time, sir.
Absolutely.